Today we decided to retell the manga for you, which is called I Level Up Alone. Be sure to write comments and tell us how you like the plot, and whether you are waiting for the continuation. Like, subscribe and let's get started. The action takes place in the Korean city of Seoul. Two girls are having lunch in a cafe, but at one moment one of them receives a message on the phone. At first, they think that a man sent the message, but it turns out that a notification of a state of emergency has arrived. The friends decide that the message was sent by mistake. But the second girl receives the same message. And to everyone who sits in a cafe, people start to panic. Sirens start broadcasting the announcement of a state of emergency throughout the city. Suddenly, an unusual creature appears in the sky, similar to a huge purple octopus. It has been 15 days since the gate appeared. The news reports that a state of emergency has been declared across the country, and heads of state have gathered in the US to fight the invasion. According to the military, they are effectively eliminating the monsters. Every resident is safe. It is highly recommended to evacuate as soon as possible. In the apartment where the news is shown, green monsters eat up the owner of the apartment. These monsters are not like the one that appeared in the sky. They are green and look like dogs. Suddenly, a grenade flies into the room. The military begin shelling the creatures. But the bullets don't take them. One of the military resisting the creatures, Soldier Kim, does not start the shelling, as he understands that there is no point in this. But another soldier assures that we must continue to shoot. The monsters attack back. The soldiers lie down in the hope of avoiding the attack. After the attack, the commander does not come to his senses for a long time, but thanks to his subordinates, he still manages to wake up. He is surprised that he is still alive. The soldier has a question: are there any wounded? Luckily, all but Choi's squad, who were injured in the explosion, are safe. After that, he discusses with another soldier that the members of the squad shoot poorly, but they still won't be able to replace the entire squad. People are confused. The commander is called to his side to show something strange. The strange thing is that the monster continues to move. Even with the fact that his head was blown off. The commander sees these creatures for the first time in his life, but he has heard a lot about them from his colleagues. He understands that if the monsters attack in a crowd, then people will not have a chance. The commander is distracted from his thoughts, as they again want to show him something. This time, the military points to the phone, which transmits a message about immediate surrender, as the army is suffering huge losses. Now they show the actions that are unfolding in the United States in the onboard conference room. The president is shown the video that has just been received. In the video, the city is attacked by a red dragon. People are horrified. Nothing affects the dragon, including nuclear weapons, are useless. Conference members begin to fear that such creatures may appear in their country. One of them, succumbing to a strong panic, suggests the use of more nuclear weapons, but he is quickly laid down. Suddenly, the gate is in a conference room. Someone resembling a man comes out of the gate. He has silver hair, a gold headband, and glasses. He is dressed in a black and yellow suit. The president's guards pull out their weapons, but he stops them. Unknown finds the situation with the dragon quite dangerous. The president asks the newcomer to introduce himself. He introduces himself as a monster from a cosmic multidimensional federation. And he came with an offer. It lies in the fact that he can give strength that will help in the fight against monsters. The offer is valid only if the Earthlings agree to join the Cosmic Multidimensional Federation. The president accepts the offer without further thought. This is shocking to the rest, as they cannot trust this person. The president retorts that they simply have no choice and that he does not like the situation either. In addition, he decides to take full responsibility for himself. Monster is pleased. He pulls a glowing cube from his inside jacket pocket and announces that the game has begun. The action takes place 28 years later. The military again confront the monsters using firearms. The squad leader asks a certain Hae Han Lee to concentrate so as not to interfere with the hunters. Hunters are people who have been awakened to fight monsters. They can fight monsters. We are again told about the events that took place 28 years ago, about the first day when the gates opened. Humanity was on the verge of destruction, but they were able to make a deal with someone who is a member of the Multidimensional Federation organization. All over the world, awakened ones have awakened, who have superhuman abilities. They are called hunters. The human race has united to resist the monsters. After 10 years of fierce fighting, people managed to regain some cities. The person who gave people the ability to fight came back immediately after giving strength. Since the land had just joined the Federation, they were given 30 years as a trial period. All this backstory was told to us by Hanyeol, a simple porter. We are shown a fight between humans and monsters. The monster is large, white, similar to a lizard. The girl creates a fireball with her hands and attacks the creatures. The guy in the hat decides to strike a powerful blow alone. But he couldn't hurt him. Silver-scaled lizards proved to be quite fire-resistant. Since the attack did not work, the question arises, what to do now? Hunters need time to recover, so they have to call porters. It seems to the porters that the hunters they fight together are not pros. The monster suddenly begins to grow in size. They give the order to retreat. The monster is preparing to strike a crushing blow. Soldiers use a force shield. The porters have an idea to escape from the battlefield. The manager decides to continue the furious attack on the undead. Says the porters should help the hunters. The guy in the hat tries his powerful attack again. This time he is right on target. The monster goes berserk as a heavy blow from the hunter is followed by a shot from Kim the porter. Kim has to run away because the monster is moving right at him. But he stumbles. The monster practically catches up with him. Kim promised to help. No one reacts, no one cares about the porters. It is believed that for them to die on the battlefield is an honor. Han Bell is a friend of Kim in trouble. He decides to save him. Khan tries to remember where the lizard's weak point is. Kim keeps calling for help. Bell, still not understanding the location of the weak link, shoots at random. He manages to divert attention. Now he is the target, but he is not awakened, so he does not have the strength to resist. One of the hunters still offers to help, but his offer is denied by the rest of the hunters. Khan has to run away. His ammo does not contain mana, which is an important component for an attack. Bullets won't do anything to the monster. He decides to use another method. His choice falls on the power line. If you get into an electric wire, it will break and fall on the lizard. There is only one chance. At first glance, the hero manages to do this, but strong dust rises. It is not clear who caused this. We are shown a girl who wakes up. It's wearing the same headband as the guy who offered the deal to humanity 30 years ago. She says that time has passed very quickly, and that you need to move forward little by little. Connell is waking up. He fainted as the lizard hit him with its tail. The mattress and backpack he found next to him helped him neutralize the attack. Khan conducts the reasoning aloud, but unexpectedly receives an answer. At first he thinks he has gone mad, that the voices have appeared in his head. The voice tells him that even if Han is shocked, he must not forget about the monster. The monster still did not notice the hero, but his power level far exceeds Yell's power level. The issue of finding a porter becomes a matter of time. Khan decides to listen to the voice. The voice decides to give Khan special skills. The voice decides to choose a dagger, which lies not far from the hero. The temporary gift turns out to be a penetrating blade. The hero starts glowing blue. In his hands, a panel of skill information is displayed. The skill is an M-sized piercing blade. The effect is instant death with a high probability of stabbing the opponent's deadly area. Duration 45 seconds. Khan is shocked by all this. But he still starts attacking. Khan runs to the lizard. There are 30 seconds left. He jumps, ready to strike. There are 20 seconds left. He has 15 seconds left when he begins to strike at a weak spot. A penetrating blade is a success. Silver-scaled lizard, instant death. The hero sits down with relief. The voice says that killing the monster can be considered successful completion of the tutorial. Khan again does not understand what is happening. The voice decides to introduce himself. The voice turns out to be the same girl that was shown to us. Her number is 1788957 and she is now Ego Hannah. Her name is Cabbies. Now Khan is also a hunter. All people who were awakened 28 years ago have mana, an extraordinary power. Lee Hanyeol became one of them. However, he is not at all happy about this news, but rather does not believe what is happening. The hero believes that this whole situation does not fit with common sense. The manager and his group find a newly minted hunter. They are shocked when they see that the monster has been killed. A hated hunter, whose name we do not know, roughly pushes Khan, as he decides to come closer to the corpse. He cannot believe that an ordinary porter killed the monster with a knife. The rest of the hunters believe that Khan only finished off the creature, and they did the main work. A rude hunter in a hat asks Khan if he has any claims. Khan replies that he has no complaints, while smiling sweetly. In fact, Lee thinks that the hunters are the real scum. He considers himself a fool for expecting any help from them. In fact, they used the person as bait. And the porter had to fight on his own with a strong enemy. The manager, understanding what Khan is thinking, says that this is not the first time the hunters have done this. At this time, Kabi's pokes his fingers on the cheeks of the manager, which confuses the hero. The manager notices Khan's strange reaction to what is happening, asks if everything is fine with him. Khan refuses, says that he just grabbed his stomach. No one sees Kabi's except him. Khan is praised for his work. Killing the monster alone is quite difficult. The manager even jokes that now he will become awakened. Khan, of course, laughs it off, saying that this cannot be. The manager says it's time to get back to work. Khan realizes that he has already become awakened. The manager calls the car to the scene. Yell decides that if you tell everything now, then nothing good will come of it, so he keeps everything a secret. A military vehicle with a body arrives for the fighters. The porters are handing over the suitcases. Kabi's asks Khan what kind of suitcase they gave him. In the suitcase is the equipment of the executioner. With it, the material of the monster is cut off, and then transported. The girl is puzzled by this work, which turns out to be a standard task for porters. It is for this reason that hunters take porters with them, since monster material can be sold at a high price. Kabi's now understands the meaning of such work. Since there are only two workers, Khan and the manager, Lee suggests dividing the monster into two parts. They share it with a special chainsaw. However, the manager's chainsaw becomes unusable immediately after starting work. Khan understands that the work ahead is hard, as he is the only porter who has the necessary tools. L decides to do all the main work himself, and the manager will take care of the rest. Kabi's is vomiting from all this. Khan collapses after finishing work. Suddenly, the plate that previously showed the skills of the knife appears again. This time it says that the monster lizard is completely defeated, and Khan is given the rank A. The girl explains that she gave him an improved executioner skill. Her words are reflected on the tablet. After graduation, everyone is praised and given a salary of 500,000 won. Now the hero has 500,463 won in his account. Since the hunters coped with the task faster than planned, everyone is released. The hunters discuss what they will have for dinner. Han is upset that he didn't get paid the extra 500,000 won because he worked a full shift. Khan transfers today's earnings to a certain guy. It turns out that he covers his father's hospital expenses. The manager asks the hero why the rest of the family is not helping. Khan explains that his mother and younger sister have long since left the family. The manager apologizes for his question, but Khan says that everything is fine. He is most concerned about his father's health. The manager makes a strange expression on his face. He says he always knew Khan was a good person. Khan just denies it. The manager says that he can call that Uncle Taisu. Since Yel doesn't have a car, Taisu offers to give him a ride. Upon arrival, Khan concludes that the manager is a good person, but too annoying. Since we finished early today, Khan has time to go to the night shift at the factory. He has 4 hours of free time. He gets the feeling that he forgot something. That something turns out to be Kabi's. However, she ends up behind him, which greatly frightens Khan. He does not understand where Kabi's was all the time, how she ended up next to him if she was not driving in a car. Kabi's says she can be considered part of Khan himself. On the site are also a child with a mother. The girl calls Khan a strange man. The mother asks her daughter not to look at him. It turns out that since the hero has become awakened, Kabi's will not leave him behind. She now serves as his assistant. Khan generally ceases to understand anything, makes a surprised face, which, in turn, surprises the girl. She asks if something suits him. Khan yells of course at this. He explains this by saying that Kabi's first appears out of nowhere, which greatly frightens the hero, and also people around take him for a madman, because it seems to them that he is talking to himself. He asks if Kabi's understands how he feels about himself, while dramatically falling on the bench. Kabi's asks if it's the hero's fault, but Khan only thinks that his personal life is now gone, and indicative tears appear in his eyes. He says goodbye to his joyful time. The girl folds her arms and asks what he means by happy time. Khan, who didn't say all this out loud, asks her if she can read his mind. The answer becomes positive, which does not please Khan at all. He asks Kabi's not to do this, to which she gives no answer. Kabi's invites Khan to test his abilities, but he makes an innocent face, suggests not to do it. The girl again ignores the hero, asks him to say the word state, for a start. After that, the blue bar reappears, which displays Khan's status and some data. Name, Lee Hanyeol, level, 1, points, 5, strength, 28, constitution, 34, agility, 29, magic, 10, luck, 10, skill, Kabi's defense and executioner skill. Khan suggests that the panel is like a game window, which Kabi's agrees with. Kabi says that his 5 points are divided into strength, constitution, magic, dexterity, and luck. She asks him if he needs to clarify what these criteria mean. Han says that he wants to ask the girl something. Kabi's makes an interested face and asks to ask a question. The question is why her name is included in his skills. Kabi says that this skill is what it is, since the girl herself is special. At the same time, she gets up in a boastful pose. Khan makes a disbelieving face, puts his hands in his pockets, asks if she really thinks so of herself. Kabi says that she is special, asks if the hero felt a special connection between the game window and the battle. The hero decides that Kabi's is right, since the Awakened appeared 28 years ago, but no one knows how they came about. He further gives examples. The power could appear on the battlefield, while studying at school, be with a child from birth. Since the powers appear randomly, scientists have not been able to figure out the reason for their origin. According to the data, hunters have 3 abilities, which are shown as a shield, sword, and bow. The ability of the sword is possessed by a hunter in a hat, a shooting partner by his partner, and a protective partner in uniform. All 3 of them were on the battlefield with Khan. A hunter becomes either in the circles of catching monsters, or in the circle of dressing those who create new weapons. The hero so far has only 2 skills, the last of which appeared after awakening. Khan asks if he is a unique hunter. The girl comes closer to the hero, a smile appears on her lips, she says that he quickly grasps everything. The hero again cannot believe what is happening. In his country, unique hunters are called thunderbeams. They are true masters of their craft and one of them is called Hien. Hien is a tall girl in a brown cloak. Khan concludes that all the skills he received, he acquired thanks to Kabi's. But he doesn't understand how it works. Kabi's begins his explanation with an example. If the rest of the hunters get a house upon awakening, then Lee got only a brick. But depending on his actions, bricks can become not just a house, but a whole castle. Khan does not get the meaning of the metaphor. Kabi's decides to explain in a different way, and she is already quite tired. All the skills that Lee pumps, and all the available skills, he receives thanks to her. Khan is again shocked by what is happening. We are shown the cattle depot, the factory where Khan works. He is greeted by a man in uniform, saying that the guy came early. L explains that he finished his first job pretty quickly. Khan asks what monster came to them today, to which he receives the answer that it looks like an albatross. Khan is surprised as these are B-level monsters that don't end up in the slaughterhouse. The man explains that it's all thanks to the connections of the boss, with whom Khan wishes to speak to him personally. Khan changed into a uniform. The man says that the boss knows nothing, but has good connections. The man looks at the time and says it's time to go. Khan says goodbye, says that they will meet already on the line. Khan asks Kabi's if she wants to leave everything like that. To which she replies, using the saying, it's better to see once than hear 100 times, says that you need to continue the work of the porter. Khan again becomes perplexed, as he is surprised by the fact that the girl knows such a proverb. Khan says he has done a lot of work in his 3 years as a porter. However, he is interrupted by a voice calling his name. The hero recognizes this voice. It turns out that this is a man of full build, in a jacket and helmet. It turns out to be the boss beggar, a pig. The boss drives Lee to work if he wants to get money. The fact is that on his first day at work, Lee spilled coffee on his boss, so now he constantly finds fault with him, although the boss intentionally pushed Khan. Khan picks up knives for butchering monsters, but this creature has a strange glow in the neck. He sees glowing lines on all the monsters. Khan decides that the work still needs to be continued, but the arrangement of the lines seems familiar to him. It turns out that these are the lines along which he usually butchers monsters. The hero assumes that this is due to the executioner's skill. Khan decides to ask Kabi's, but she does not answer him. His partner thinks that Lee is talking to him, but he refuses. Kabi's finally decides to show himself. The hero again wonders why the girl always appears later. The girl is standing in a nightgown with a pillow in her hand. Khan is surprised that she needs sleep too. The girl understands that the hero wants to ask about the lines. She explains with a smile on her face that they help him do his job. The hero opens his mouth and understands the information. His reasoning with the girl is seen by other workers, but they attribute this to the fact that he is having a hard time. The girl offers Yel to start his work, and then he will understand everything himself. He understands that then his work will be completed very quickly. Kabi's again becomes ill from the sight of butchering a corpse. Lee is surprised at how quickly he finished his work. It usually takes him at least 3 hours to complete a job, but now he's done it all in 1. If he continues to work, he will complete an 8-hour day in 3. The skill turns out to be really useful to use. Unexpectedly, he finds a purple magic stone in the monster's body. This stone is usually taken with you, as their cost is 1,000,000 won. He tosses the stone into a box labeled lower-class stones. Khan has the feeling that his knife is cutting faster and faster. He begins to speculate that this is a skill upgrade. Kabi's, who reads his mind, says that repeating the skill improves him. A sign appears on which it says, Sword skill upgraded to level F. It comes as a surprise to Khan that he received this skill. 2 hours after his shift, Khan starts cleaning his workspace. Another worker notices this and asks Khan if he has given up. The man begins to scold Ilya. The boss already considers him an unlucky employee, so he also wants to leave the workplace earlier to show everyone how hard it is for him. Khan claims he has already met his quota. The man wonders how he managed to do everything so quickly. Khan replies that he just got the gist of how to do the job better. Lee realizes that now is not the time to talk about how he has become awakened. The man does not believe the guy's words and decides to check the operation of the device, which shows the percentage of work completed. Khan decides to quickly leave the workplace. He is treated normally as long as he controls his mana. The man wants to learn the secret of fast work from Khan. L understands that doing his job in 2.5 hours is rather suspicious. Next time, he will have better control over his power. In the corridor, Khan meets the boss, who calls the guy to him. Khan doesn't like it all, but he understands that he needs to be patient, so he just asks the boss what happened. The boss does not like this question, because he does not like that Khan just walks around during working hours. Khan replies that he has already done all his work. The boss at first wants to say that he thought so, but his statement is interrupted by a surprised exclamation. Khan makes a cute smile and says that the deer is cut into 80 pieces. With the same expression on her face, Elle puts her card to the machine, which announces that Khan has fully completed his daily quota. This brings the boss into complete shock. Even an experienced butcher would not have done it so quickly. Khan decides to quickly leave again and look at the albatross. In the place where the albatross is kept, there is another worker who also decided to look at the monster. Albatross looks like a blue pterodactyl. We are shown a street with small houses. L is finally at home. He immediately jumps onto his bed. He thinks that since he is now awakened, then he cannot work at the factory either. At this moment, he receives a message from the guy in which they demand the return of the money. You still have to work in a factory. Khan has already paid the money today, so he decides to just throw away the phone. Before going to bed, L decides to take a bath first. At this moment there is a knock on the door. An unexpected guest is a girl who reproaches the hero for making noise late at night. L can't figure out if it's his neighbor. The girl at this time defines herself as a high school student who has exams, and if she fails them, is Khan ready to take responsibility for this? Khan apologizes to the girl. The girl, before leaving, says that in which case she warned Lee. He believes that today's teenagers are still fruits. Decides to go to bed earlier than usual tonight. The neighbor returns home, falls at the table. She is overtaken by excitement about entering the university. We are shown a piece of the protagonist's room, in which we see cockroaches. It's midnight on the clock, but Lee still can't sleep. It's probably because a lot has happened in the last day. In addition, a lot of interesting things appeared. Lee decides to ask Kabi's a question. Kabi's is getting tired of Han asking questions all the time. This time, Lee was not afraid of the unexpected appearance of Kabi's, as he was already used to it. The girl leans her head back on L's bed and wonders what he needs from him. He says that he knows that every hunter has mana that can be used. Can Han also use it? Kabi says that she was going to talk to him about this later, as the hunter doesn't have enough mana right now. It is quite difficult to explain the work of magic in words, so Kabi's invites the hero to figure it out himself. Khan was not ready for the fact that this would have to be dealt with now. First you need to close your eyes and put your hand on your heart. The type of mana depends on the type of spiritual power. Therefore, if you concentrate enough, you can use your strength. After the necessary actions have been performed, you need to concentrate on your spiritual world and imagine that a person is a tree trunk. L makes a surprised face, asks again about the tree, to which Kabi's again makes a sweet smile and confirms his words. Next, you need to imagine that the nutrients from the roots rush up. Lee is still incredulous about the method Kabi's proposes. But suddenly he succeeds, a small blue ball appears in his hand. The size of the ball was smaller than the girl expected. Kabi's assigned a new skill to Lee, mana control. Lee was again frightened by the suddenness of what was happening. Kabi's explains that the orb is a representation of pure mana, but in this state it cannot be used, since it is too small, but its amount can be increased either by training or by adding points. Khan decides that this night he will shine on training. Unexpectedly, the neighbor returns again and again with claims. The guy apologizes, while rubbing his neck with his hand. They show us the next day, but after the shift at the factory, Khan went to work early and finished early. The boss watched Lee's work all the time, but when he quickly finished his work, the boss had a very dumbfounded face. Lee again ran away from the workplace, so as not to answer no questions. Lee cooks custard noodles for lunch, wishing he had gone into the canteen. During lunch, Lee trains his strength. It turns out that the stove still does not work for him, which the hostess cannot fix. A guy won't live long on ramen, but there's nothing to be done. On a broken phone, Lee watches a baseball game. Match 7 is already over. The ball is thrown by Hanyeol, a man with a hot shooting style. Conrus is worried that if the ball hits someone's head, it will hurt a lot. Chung scores a strike. At this point, Lee has an idea: hunters can give mana to items, and whether he can do so. Kabi's again has to answer the question, can Lee do it too? Of course, he can also do this, but not at this level. If mana is introduced into solid matter, it will become much stronger. Khan decides that he needs to eat all the food at once. After all, the mechanism of work is the same. Now the plot takes place at night. Lee is dressed in a tracksuit, and Kabi's is standing nearby and does not understand what he is going to do. Lee placed a can of cola in front of him. In high school, he played baseball. Now he wants to try again, but this time with the help of mana, the hero endowed the stone with power. He makes a throw and hits right on target. The stone went right through the tin can. Lee is now proud of himself. There was still gunpowder in the flasks. Kabi's isn't particularly impressed with the skills. The hero continues his hard training. Already knocked out about 10 cans, sweat flows in streams. Kabi suggests that he rest, but Lee plans to keep training. However, a whole hour has already passed, and if you overdo it with training, then there may be bad consequences. Khan still has no plans to stop, and Kabi's has an incredulous expression on her face. Throw again, hit again. Mana usage increased. Now the skill-crushing blow is formed. The hunter in the hat also used this ultimate. Khan asks Kabi's to tell about this skill. An explanation of the skill is displayed on the blue screen. It delivers a powerful blow by concentrating mana in the physical plane. Lee realized that he either gets a skill under certain conditions or by repeating actions, so he decided to just practice a lot. Khan picks up the stone again, planning to practice further, but collapses due to exhaustion. He woke up still at night and Kabis was sitting on the nearest bench. He does not understand what happened to him, so Kabis again has to explain everything. As a result, she just yells at him, as she warned of the consequences. Turns out he's been out for an hour. With that, he decides to end it and go home. On the way home, Han passes a notice board. The whole last day the hero feels chills. Although, it is possible, this is a glitch. Now he hears a strange sound coming from the gateway. We see two men threatening a neighbor girl with a knife. They ask her to stand still and shut up if she does not want reprisals. Lee has always avoided such situations, and the idea of calling the police seems to him the best, but first he decides to see what happens. The girl is already being tied up. In the girl, Lee recognizes his neighbor, a high school student. What to do now? He decides to take a chance and help. A neighbor silently calls for help. She is very much frightened, tears flow from her eyes. They want to put her in a car and take her away. Lee uses a new technique. He attacks the hooligans with stones. One of the bandits is knocked out. Lee goes out to them and asks to let the girl go. The second pulls out a knife and begins to threaten Khan. They try to intimidate him, but Lee suspected such an outcome of events. He is not confident in his abilities, but he needs to try. Now L uses a chain as a weapon. He succeeds in intercepting her direct attack with a knife. By the way, he copied the reception from the internet, although he was not confident in his abilities. It is possible that the fact is that with awakening, physical strength also increases. If this is true, then you can try a crushing blow. It works. The second bandit is also passed out. Lee frees the schoolgirl by holding out his hand. The girl throws herself into the arms of Khan, as she is very scared, and he just saved her. He hugs her tightly in return, reassuring her with the words that everything is already over. Time 12 at night. Khan and the victim are sitting at the police station, where they testify. The girl's name is Han Yubai. The policeman clarifies the accuracy of his testimony. The people in the cage threatened Yubai, and Han accidentally walked by and defeated them alone. The policeman asks the guy if he was awakened by the case. Khan simply refuses that he has just been playing sports for a long time. After leaving the police station, Khan feels tired. The policeman asked a lot of strange questions. The hero is already calmly about to go home, when he catches up with him, hugging Yubai from behind. She is called his appa, which in Korea is denoted as an older, respected brother or idol. This surprises him very much, but the girl looks at him with a playful look and asks if he wants to leave her alone. Khan notices that the girl is already feeling pretty good. He agrees to take her home. He notices for himself that despite the fact that he himself only learned her name, she seems to be a pleasant person. Yubai grabs onto it with a hand that is visibly trembling. Apparently, she is still worried about what happened. They get home with no problem. Despite what happened, Yubi is positive. She is a really strong girl. Now you can finally rest. Suddenly, something falls out of his pocket. This something turns out to be a note with a number and a signature. Call me if you get bored. Well, another gratitude for the salvation. The hero lies on his bed without undressing. Han Yubai is a beautiful name, but also funny at the same time. Khan imagines a painting that is a reference to the Chinese commander. Khan asks Kabis to show his condition. The panel that appears displays points, 10, level 2, strength, 28, physique, 34, dexterity, 29, magic, 10, luck, 10. List of skills: Kabis defense, executioner, sword master, mana control, crushing blow, compulsion. The level has increased, which pleases the hero. But he does not understand where the skill coercion came from. By the way, tomorrow is a day off at the factory, so Khan has an idea to go there. Khan, the next morning, comes to the gym. There he meets his friend, who is interested in the state of the guy's life. They hug, which once again proves the friendliness of a friend. It turns out that they met a few months later. The man even thought that Khan died on one of the tasks. Lee denies that there has been a lot of trouble lately, but now Han wants to start training in the gym again. The man asks how the man's Hyung is doing. Lee is going to visit him in the hospital, as he picked up a sore. The man asks to say hello for him, to which Lee agrees with pleasure. The man turns out to be the manager, who is called to him by other employees. Lee considers him a good person, as he allows the use of the gym for free, and taught Lee how to play baseball as a child. You will need a manager with cleaning in the hall. Lee starts his workouts by jumping rope. He again trains to the last, which gives Lee the opportunity to receive the skill of physical strength. This took 2.5 hours. Now you can start cleaning. Lee arrives at the Seoul National University Hospital and goes up to the 6th floor. A young girl sits at the front desk, who immediately recognizes Khan. The question about the state of the father has not yet been answered. Ilya is being handed documents for a receipt. The document is consent to admission to intensive care. Khan, not surprised that his father's condition is in an unclear position, thanks his sister for taking care of the elder. It turns out that all the other doctors have abandoned Lee's father. He is directed in the right direction, but at that moment a message arrives on the phone. Khan apologizes and checks the notice. Again, the return message is long, but Lee has already sent the amount. The hospital worker asks what happened, but L, in his usual manner, refuses, answering that everything is fine. Lee decides to ignore the messages. My father is in intensive care ward number 603. He is connected to a ventilator. Kim asks the nurse how many hours her father has been sleeping lately. She replies that starting this week, around 2 p.m. Kim realizes that he doesn't have much time left. The nurse does not understand what these words mean. Kim explains that every day the number of hours spent in sleep will increase. As soon as the time reaches 24 hours, the father will no longer be able to open his eyes. It has been 4 years since the father of the hero, whose name is Lee Jun-sam, fell ill. At that time, doctors did not know either the cause of the disease or the method of treatment. They just assumed it was a type of cancer. All this time, both anti-cancer treatments and clinical treatments have been tried. However, this only temporarily improved Jun-sam's condition. Father began to open his eyes, but now he sleeps more and more. After spending some time with his father, the hero decides to leave. The nurse is surprised by the early departure, since Khan has not visited his father for a long time. Lee believes that if the father had known about the visit of his son at such a time, he would have decided that he was causing unnecessary trouble. In addition, the presence of the son next to the father will not help the treatment. The nurse is surprised by this reaction. She asks if Lee knows a way to heal with magic. Khan had not heard of such a method. The girl explains to him that this is a new way, which is carried out by the awakened with the gift of healing. Of course, this method is problematic from the financial point of view. Khan does not let the nurse finish, because he wants to find a way to cure his father himself. He thanks the girl for her care. He does not want to give the girl personal troubles, since she has been caring for her father for 4 years. The nurse tries to answer something, but she does not succeed. Khan tells the girl that everything will be fine while smiling. Already at home, Lee realizes that he said this to the girl in vain. How does he plan to find a cure if even the doctors don't know what to do? The hero decides to start by looking for a method of healing with magic. He tries to turn on the old computer, which again does not turn on. Lee kicks the computer and gets angry that nothing works. The computer is helped by a physical action in its direction, it turns on. Lee finds information on the internet about a new treatment. He again testament to Kabi's. This time she is happy to answer questions. He asks if he can master the skill of curing diseases. She's not sure, but if the understanding of the skill satisfies the conditions, then it's possible. Kabi's notices a cockroach and cannot understand that it is so small here. Lee is pleased with her answer. However, even if he has sufficient understanding of the skill and he masters the necessary skills, then a higher level is needed. Khan decides to start improving his level. He Googles Porter's Paradise. Kabi's in the background is trying to kill an insect. This week all places for porters are already taken. He decides to call a friend to see if there is any work for him. Scheduled for tomorrow noon. Kabi's has almost killed the insect, but suddenly a few more cockroaches crawl out. The hero breathes a sigh of relief. Lee sees that Kabi's is sitting near the door, frightened. The fact is that the insects decided to attack her with their entire crowd. Early in the morning, while Lee is still sleeping, someone rings the doorbell. Lee opens the door but finds no one. She blames everything on the tricks of children. Suddenly he sees banana milk and a note. In the note, Yubai again thanks Han for saving him, calling him Appa. Lee enjoys banana milk. Yubai stands behind the wall and smiles shyly. Khan is standing on the road, waiting for them to come for him. The manager comes for him. Lee apologizes for calling so abruptly with a request. The man refuses and calls to get into the car as soon as possible and get down to business. They arrive at the Seoul government office. They decide to split up. The man follows the machine to transport the material. Khan comes to the porter service department. There, the girl clarifies that the guys in front of him are Lee Hanyeol, Choi Chung-hong and Kim Han, who are leaving for a mission today at 7 a.m. and from the A0017. All three confirm the information. First you need to pass the identification. They are given the necessary equipment, a submachine gun, 2 boxes of cartridges, 4 frame backpacks and personal chainsaws. Since the guys have been at this job for more than a year, the worker decides not to repeat the safety rules. The girl tells Khan that she doesn't know what happened on the last shift, but now his equipment is damaged. This caused a lot of trouble for the workers. Khan makes a guilty face. The girl, putting on a frightening smile, asks this time not to spoil anything. However, Khan's safety is still considered the most important, so she asks to return safe and sound. The porters and coves are brought to Gangwon-do, a place located near the demilitarized zone. This place looks like a green field surrounded by forest and mountains. The hunt has begun. Communication begins to disappear, which means that the field is already nearby. Although it might be for the best. They decide to stop. The manager says that today's enemy is dogs. Dogs are about the size of calves. Their peculiarity is ferocity and a developed motor nerve. They attack in 2s or 3s, so be careful. The manager says that when the porters attract the attention of the dogs, they will need to be handed over by the hunters. The hero is not happy with the fact that he is just a decoy, but he also recognizes the oratorical qualities of the manager. For the manager, this task seems easy, as he has already seen a lot of monsters on the way. Lee is back on the team with the 3 hunters he was with last time. A dialogue begins between the manager and the hunter in the hat. The hunter decides to ask the manager a question, which causes a bad feeling in the second. The hunter wonders if this time will be as dangerous as that one, since there will be problems if any bullshit happens. The manager assures that everything will be fine, that the strength of the hunters is much greater than the strength of the dogs. The hunter says that these words reassured him, but it is unlikely that we really do, since he has a rather stern expression on his face. This point is also noticed by Yeongam. From the outside, the conversation between Yeongam and a hunter in a hat looks like a psychological war. Anyway, now everything is in open work, so the manager releases fireworks. Dogs react to it, which begin to run towards the source of the sound. The manager gives the command to the porters to shoot. The porters open fire, and behind them, on command, are the hunters. The hated hunter attacks one of the dogs with a crushing blow. Another creature will attack him, but already from the back. The hunter was not taken aback and struck back. Cope with the dogs turns out pretty quickly, which makes everyone suspicious. The hunter girl doesn't even have time to create a magic bomb to attack. She now does not know what to do with the projectile. She is offered to just throw it aside, but she cannot, as it has crushing power. The manager still seems suspicious of what happened. Lee notices this and asks Taisu what happened. Taisu explains that it bothers him that the dogs didn't use force when attacking. He has suspicions that someone interfered in their duel. Lee was afraid that he was declassified. Therefore, in order not to give himself away, he simply supports Taisu's theory. It seems that the manager is not going to think further about this situation, but is simply happy with how everything turned out. Khan is called over to help with the work. Lee is glad that no one seems to suspect him yet. We are shown the actions that took place 20 minutes ago, when there is a psychological war between the hunter and the manager. Khan is called to his place to check and distribute the store. Upon checking, Khan does not find any problems. But the thought comes to his mind, what if we give mana to cartridges to increase their firepower? This will not only help the task, but also give experience points. At the moment of endowing the cartridges with mana, the manager approaches him. TC wonders what Han is up to. Lee rebuts, saying he's just checking the ammo magazines. The manager does not notice anything and asks to finish the work faster. It turns out that now all the pistols of the porters are loaded with Khan bullets. These actions raise him to level 3. The porters and hunters begin their next job, the work with the corpses. Hannah is already working on the third, trying to keep up with the hunters. He is told that it is impossible to work at such a speed, to which Khan agrees. Khan did not expect that because the work would be done faster, the hunters would also deal with the corpses. Hunters with power are hard enough to keep up with. At this rate, they won't last long, and Khan will definitely go crazy. There was an offer to take a break, which Lee is unspeakably happy. The other porters are already quite tired, and the hunters at least Hannah. Hunters are discussing the option to go somewhere. Lee is embarrassed in front of the other porters, but he has leveled up to level 4. Lee asks Kabis to show him his status data. He already has 20 points, and besides, his strength has increased. He does not yet know what he will do with his points, plus he will not be able to return the spent ones. Besides, those dogs were hard to kill even with mana bullets. But now he knows who is stronger and who is weaker. Han decides to ask Taexi a question to understand who is weaker and who is stronger. The manager gives him a friendly pat on the shoulder. He says that he is not even a hunter, but is interested in such things. Lee refuses and claims that he is just curious. The manager says that a veteran like him already has enough experience to correctly match the amount of mana of hunters and monsters. Lee doesn't quite understand what mana matching means. TC says that Khan should be aware that before recruiting hunters, their mana is measured. Lee says he knows about the procedure. The manager says that Lee knows quite a lot, to which Han says that he just found out about it. The manager calls him a teapot. The manager says that his job is to balance forces. If the amount of mana of hunters exceeds the average amount of mana of monsters, then you can join the battle. However, if you have to face monsters of different levels, then everything will already depend on the experience of the hunter. The manager is holding a strange thing in his hand, which is a mana meter. Lee wonders if this thing is like a radar that picks up the mana response of monsters. The manager says that this is how it is, but the device has run out of charge. Equipping a device with mana is quite expensive. Lee offers to help since TC does so much for him. He decides to use his mana to charge. This helps, but raises obvious questions for the manager. Lee simply refuses, saying that the technique has failed. The device shows that there are more creatures a kilometer away. The manager decides that he needs to move on to the next hunt. Lee has an idea, to make his eyes a radar. He decides to ask Kabis about it. She says that it is possible to endow body parts with magic if they are strong enough, but she does not know about the eyes. If he does something wrong, then there is a possibility that his eyes will just explode. This scares Lee a lot, but despite this, he tries. His eyes darken sharply. His actions frighten Kabis. Khan has a strange feeling, but it seems that he managed to imbue his eyes with mana. Kabis asks about his well-being, to which Lee replies that he is in a lot of pain. Kabis scolds him for his arbitrariness, but he just continues to rub his eyes and say that if you don't try, you won't know. Kabis asks him not to rub his eyes and let the tears flow. Mana flows from his eyes, and his vision begins to return. Hunters notice a strange aura over the hero, discuss his strange actions. Kabis asks the guy not to do stupid things anymore. Khan gets a new skill, understanding of the use of mana. A new effect has appeared. When endowing the eye with mana, you can control the flow, density and amount of mana. This greatly surprises Khan. The working day ended, the manager thanked everyone for the work done. Paid 500,000 won for that day, even though the whole group plowed twice as much. The man is very dissatisfied with this, but TC quickly upsets him. TC says that's how things always work, but the man accuses the manager of siding with the hunters. He decides not to work in this team anymore. Lee blames himself for everything, as he has accelerated the work process. He is glad that he was able to improve his skill, although not to a sufficient level. His goal is to continue working on himself. After work, Elle goes to the hospital to consult a doctor about her father. There he is again told that the current level of medicine is not enough to cure, in their power only to maintain the vital activity of the body. Lee hears the same thing for the 100th time. The doctor offers Lee, since he has already come, to visit his father, who is now awake. The father sits on the bed with his hands on his knees. He is wearing a hospital gown and his face is unshaven. He greets his son. The father asks his son why he came. Lee wanted to tell his father that he got a job with a good company, which is a comforting lie. In fact, Lee plows 2 jobs, one of which is deadly. Lee talks about working with clients, and the father is surprised at how quickly his son has grown. Lee doesn't like his father's concern as he has to worry about his health. The father says that now his son will not be so hard when his father dies. Lee reacts sharply to his words, saying that he has not yet managed to give him a happy life. But the father continues, saying that he is just a useless old man, a burden in Lee's life. At this moment, from the surging emotions, Lee's magic was transferred to Lee Sr. Magic flowed through the blood and led to an unexpected outcome. For this, Lee was given a new skill, an understanding of the ability to restore vital energy. Lee asks Kabi's a question, but the father overhears it, and he doesn't understand. Khan says that he was just thinking about the work, while blaming himself for his intemperance. The father asks if it is too hard for his son because of him. Lee says everything is fine. The father begins to fall asleep again. Lee says that if the father holds on a little longer, he will see his son's face for the rest of his days. Lee Sr. falls into a deep sleep. Spruce Covenant Kabi's and asks her to tell about the new skill. She happily agrees and displays a blue table in which all the information is written. Skill effect: by transferring mana, it is possible to heal external damage and restore vitality. Lee wants to see if he can heal his father with this skill. Kabi's believes that one such skill will not be enough. However, if Lee continues to develop, then curing his father will no longer be a problem. A nurse enters the room, saying that the visiting time has already ended, while apologizing for the intrusion. Khan mentally asks his father to be patient a little more. Lee comes out of the room and bumps into a man. He apologizes, looks up and sees that in front of him is a person he knows with a friend. The first one is rather tall, and both of them have a gold tooth inserted. The nurse clutches at her papers and asks who the people in the hospital are. The second person calls the nurse a beauty. He quietly tells Khan that he needs to quietly follow them. Lee tells Kim's sister that they are just people he knows. She doesn't really believe him. She tries to ask him again, but they don't let her. Khan is taken outside, where he is beaten up by a tall guy while the other is looking at his phone. It turns out that these guys are the people Khan owes money to. The second guy is sitting on Khan's phone, reading correspondence with himself. He says that getting rid of them is not so easy. Khan replies that he transferred money to them. They explain to Khan that something was the principal amount, and now they are demanding interest from him, raised last month. Khan is shocked by this, because he was not even informed about this. They explain to him that everything was written in the receipt. Lee calls them scammers and clenches his fist. The guy, apparently the leader of the team, asks Lee to think about his father and not make such statements. He tells Lee that he has 7 days to repay the debt or his father will face the consequences. Then they continue to beat him up. Lee is left lying next to the trash. He thinks that despite the fact that he wanted to help his father, he exposed him to a new danger. Even if Khan can pay off the debt, then what? Lee decides that he needs to move on. It's all like pissing on 2 fingers. He sits in front of a laptop with band-aids on his face. He decides to go through the registration procedure for the position of a hunter. However, the registration procedure takes a lot of time, which Khan does not have. He doesn't think that by becoming a hunter, he can pay off his debt in 7 days. He just has to get excited. During the registration process, Khan heals his wounds on his own. He walks along the shops near Supermarket S. It is very dark outside. Khan put on a hoodie to hide his face. He is determined to get down to business. We are told about a kind of national certification body for awakened ones. It was created 28 years ago during the World War, by a group of active hunters. In this organization, hunters are issued a registration card and license, and registered hunters receive various privileges. Hunters who join the organization receive permission to legally exterminate monsters. Through connections with porters, the organization is also involved in transporting monster material. In particular, these are valuable materials, such as magic stone. Lee decides to buy his hunting supplies from the cheap market. He has little time, so he will have to hunt without a license. He heard that this is often done by hunters who want to evade tax or have no money. Killing monsters illegally is a dangerous move, but there's nothing you can do about it. Lee gathered everything he needed for hunting, except for weapons. Prior to this, bullets and pistols were issued to him by the organization, but now he cannot turn to them. The weapon is rumored to be available on the black market, but he doesn't have much money. Lee decides to buy a bow from his grandfather, while specifying that it is not a fake. In addition to all this, you need to restore strength. Grandfather says that he bought a bow for hunting, but his wife did not like the idea. Now he sells this bow. Lee wants to touch the onion with his hands. The draw strength of the bow is good. A bow with 2 bundles of arrows costs 150,000 won. Lee is shocked by the amount. He takes a step back. This amount is his monthly expenses. But, there's nothing to be done, he buys onions. Grandpa asks to be careful with the bow. Now Khan needs to find a melee weapon. Khan approaches the toothless grandfather, a merchant. He asks his grandfather if he sells weapons. Grandpa yells at Khan, because everything is clear. Lee understands that the weapon is without a license, but now it does not matter to him. L asks permission to touch the weapon. The knife appears to be in very good condition. Lee asks the old man if there is a knife that does not slip in his hand. Grandpa gives him a suitable knife. Khan decides to buy 2 at once. Khan leaves the market. Grandpa is glad that he was able to sell 2 knives today. Suddenly, a man approaches him. Grandpa thought it was a new customer, but it's a cop. They came on a call in which they reported that illegal trade was taking place in the market. The old man is asked to go to the station. Khan comes home, all things are collected. There was only one unresolved question: how not to get caught at the checkpoint. He decides to use the proven option, Google. You need a car to get to the checkpoint, so he decides to rent a truck. Renting a truck turns out to be very costly. But there's nothing you can do, so you'll have to pay 500,000 won. Do go to bed thinking that all things are finished. But there is one more thing: work at the factory. Khan arrives at the factory and places an envelope on the boss's desk. The boss rips up the letter as he doesn't plan to read it, and Khan is totally freaked out. The boss is constantly getting letters that he thinks are asking for help. Every time in such a situation, he simply tore up the letters in front of the workers. Over time, they quit, but the boss did not care, since there were many workers. Lee is not bitter because the letter contained a letter of resignation. The boss starts to get mad, asks again what Khan dared to say now. Lee, mocking the man, starts picking at his ear, saying that his ears are blocked. The boss swings at Khan, but he manages to stop the blow. He says that why wave his fists if he came just to talk. The boss decides to give the brat a lesson and swings another freak, calling Lee a freak. For this, Hannah throws the boss over the table. Another worker comes to the noise, asks Lee what he did and why the boss is on the floor. The boss says Lee started the fight first. Khan picks up his torn statement from the floor and stuffs it into the boss's mouth. The worker realizes that Khan is more dangerous than it seems at first glance. Khan leaves the building pleased with himself. He thought that he would not do without a fight, but he believes that the boss deserved it. Khan will no longer be able to live his former life. His main task now is to hunt monsters. He finds the hangman's hooks on the street and decides to take them with him. We are shown that the neighbor again leaves food in front of the hero's door. Lee removes all the plasters from his face because everything has already healed. On the street, he is approached by a man who has brought a rented hunting truck. The guy asks to show Ilya his identity card. Khan is given the keys to the car. He is told that if the rental time exceeds 24 hours, then you will need to pay extra. Khan gets into the truck and goes hunting. He drives up to the checkpoint, where he is asked to show his documents. Lee says that he is from the advance group, and another detachment has his documents, so the next car will present his documents. The guard says it's against the rules, but his boss tells him to just let the porter through. The fact is that a lot of cars have accumulated in the queue, which should not be delayed. Khan made a good decision to come at this hour. In the guard's booth, the corporal is asked the question, was it possible to let a person through without documents? Corporal Choi says he hopes nothing bad happens. He asks if he had experience of letting a person through without documents. The guard says that he has never done this before. The corporal explains that even if they were deceived, it does not matter, since going hunting alone is suicide. Corporal Choi starts his shift. An ordinary guard asks him a question, is it suicide if the porter went alone into the forest? For Corporal Choi, this is not an issue, since they are guarding the battlefield, in which the gates are still open, no external communication devices are available. It is dangerous to go to this place even for one hunter. Lee looks at his stat panel. He does not understand by what principle the points are distributed. It can be tedious to allocate 10 points for strength and 10 points for magic. The panel approved this allocation to him. Ability reconfiguration completed. He decides to start hunting. On the path, L sees traces of a monster. The paw print is similar to that of a tiger's paw. Lee uses magic to see where the tracks lead. He decides to follow the trail. They lead him to the bushes, from where a monster suddenly jumps out at him. The monster is green in color, has very long claws and is quite fast. Lee identifies him as Volax. While fighting the Volax, Han's knife flies out of his hands. Volax is a monster of the lowest rank. Lee uses a hook attached to a rope and places a compulsion on it. The hook wraps around the Volax's body. The monster falls to the ground. Khan pulls out his knife to slit the monster's throat. For the hunt done, the hero level up from 4 to 5. Lee's joy is interrupted by strange sounds that come from behind. From behind the bushes, a whole flock of Volaxes appears. They launch a group attack. Lee, realizing that he can't handle it, decides to run away from the battlefield. He didn't want to face even one Volax, let alone a whole bunch. The monsters run after Khan rather quickly. If Lee does not come up with anything, then he will simply be caught. He is looking for something that can be used. On the way, he gets hit by a large rock, which Khan decides to use. He pushes away from him and clings to a branch. Lee decides that hiding at a height will help him, but the monsters begin to gnaw on the tree trunk. Lee decides that he will not stand upright but will use a bow. You need to focus all the energy on your fingertips, endow the arrows with mana, then you get a powerful blow. The arrow goes right through the monster. Khan understands that he will quickly cope with the destruction of the creatures. However, at this point, the tree begins to shake. You need to move to another tree. Lee manages to jump away from the tree at the last moment. One of the monsters gets Lee's knife on his head, which causes displeasure. Khan grabbed a branch of another tree. Volaxov is very angry, they begin to growl deafeningly. Khan confidently launches a new attack. There are only 2 monsters left to defeat. Lee takes aim, shoots, but the arrow misses the target. The fact is that the second monster crashed into a tree and shook it. Lee decides to kill the monster that is in his way first. Lee loses sight of the last creature. She is behind the hero, and almost climbing a tree. But for Lee, this does not become an obstacle, on the contrary, he attacked with even greater enthusiasm. It was the last of the terrifying tenacious monsters. Khan lay down on the ground when it was all over. It was a hard task to kill one monster, and as many as 4 fell on him. The panel reappeared, the hero was leveled up from 5 to 6 and the crushing blow skill was improved. For Lee, this seems like something unimaginable. Now he has a new problem, how to drag 4 bodies into one. After a while, Lee managed to drag all the monsters. Before the rest of the monsters smelled the blood, you need to start gutting. As Han thought, lower-class monsters are very easy to butcher. He found a purple stone in the monster. It turned out to be a stone of the lowest class. Lee got the hangman's skill hanging, which surprises Han. He again performs his standard attack, infuse hook with mana and hurl it at the monster. This technique works again, but this time Lee uses the creature as a striking force for the tree. The monster hits the tree straight, just as Lee thought. It worked the first time. Suddenly, another Valix appears behind him. These unexpected attacks are already quite tired of the hero. The monster walks straight at Lee and lets out a growl. But the hero already has a pattern in place. First you step back, dodge, and then give mana to the knife and attack. This again works perfectly, so the hero considers himself accustomed to such attacks. Lee has been hunting all day and is now level 8. The level rises much faster than the hero expected. The powers of compulsion and mana control also went up in level. Even new skills appeared, piercing, master of the chain. Khan calls Kabis to him to ask her to show more details about the new skills. The girl happily agrees to fulfill the request. Puncture has the following effect: regardless of the weapon used, additional mana is added to the piercing attack, which increases the power of the blow. Chain Master has the effect of increasing the attack power with the use of the chain. Lee calls these skills similar to passives, and Kabis doesn't quite understand the comparison. During today's hunt, Lee killed about 30 monsters, which led to the appearance of such skills. Now Khan doesn't know where to move the glasses. In most cases, the hero relies on mana, so he considers it logical to transfer points to magic. Kabis at this time looks at the corpses of monsters, which disgusts her. However, in order to better use yours, you must also increase your strength and physique. He decides to divide 5 points between all characteristics except luck. The glasses transfer process is approved, and Lee again has a strange feeling, to feel how the body is rapidly changing. Now there is a new problem in the form of a pile of monster corpses. Lee decides to finish hunting for today. Khan drives his car to the checkpoint, where he is asked to provide identification and permission to check the contents of the truck. Lee, of course, fulfills all requirements. The guard, seeing a lot of Valaxes in the trunk, is surprised at their number. Lee says he didn't catch them. The man is interested in whether the hero is carrying any animal in his car. Khan assures that he does not do anything like that. The guard tells Sergeant Kim that everything is in order, and then receives permission for Khan's pass. Khan thanks the guards and is happy that everything went smoothly. As he thought, documents are checked only at the entrance to the territory. However, when he needs to go on the next hunt, he will need to get official permission. Lee buried the corpses before going to the security post so as not to arouse suspicion. Since he does all this illegally, no one at the factory will buy anything from him. If he makes a mistake, he will be exposed, which will lead to imprisonment. But he has no other choice. Khan returns home, turns on the light, puts his heavy backpack on the floor, collapses onto his bed. Finally he finished with his work. Lee immediately falls asleep on his bed. When he wakes up, it's already 7 p.m. It turns out that he was lying around all day, sleeping 20 hours. There is a pile of unwashed dishes in his sink, clothes hanging on the dryer. Lee wonders if he used up too much mana. He washed all the crystals and put them in a suitcase. Each stone is worth several million won, so they need to be sold. There is no plant that will buy illegally mined stones. No matter how much Lee thinks about this problem, he cannot find how to cope with it. Wait, there is a black market. For this case, Lee calls the manager. It's already quite dark outside when Lee meets Taexi. TC, calling himself an old man, does not understand why he called him at such a time. They decide to go inside the building first, and then discuss everything. They order their own alcohol. TC talks again about how many times he almost died on a mission. Lee doesn't know where to start the conversation. He only replies that he is glad that the manager survived. Khan begins to reflect on the loyalty of his intentions. The manager interrupts the hero's flow of thoughts and starts the dialogue himself. He doesn't think Lee decided to meet just for a drink. Taexi noticed that the hero was always kind of nervous. He then asks if Lee called him to tell him about his awakened power. Khan is dumbfounded by this question. Raising his voice, he says that the manager already knew everything. TC says that it is not the first day in this world, so it was impossible not to notice this. He began to suspect this from the moment when the hero filled up his first monster alone. Lee apologizes for not revealing everything sooner. The manager says that everything is fine, he kept thinking when the hero will tell him the truth. TC says that it's great to become awakened and asks to tell how the hero became one. Khan says he didn't actually call the manager because of this. He takes out a magic stone from his pocket. The manager, who was about to drink, throws a glass on the table. He gets angry and asks Lee to explain how he got the stone. Khan tells the man the whole story. The manager once again asks Lee if he told him everything. Khan confirms his words, but in fact he did not say what is unique awakened. He didn't want to make the conversation any more tiresome. Lee apologizes for his actions to the manager. The man says that everything is fine and that it was not the guy's choice. It turns out that Lee wanted to hear from the manager about the black market. Lee doesn't know anything about this, so he needs help with this case. The manager folds his arms over his chest and asks the owner of the establishment for a piece of paper and a pen. On a piece of paper, he writes all the information about the black market. He asks Lee for the manager's name when he arrives. However, this was the last time the manager helped Lee and now they have no reason to see each other. TC decides to leave first, telling Lee that everything will work out for him. Lee says, bowing his head in gratitude, that he is now indebted to Taexi. The manager, laughing, says that he is not owed anything. Lee arrives at the appointed place. He is wearing a sports suit, a cap on his head, and a black mask on his face. Lee comes down the stairs. There is an iron door, and around are bags of garbage and paint. Khan knocks on the door, but a voice tells him to leave. Khan says he came from Taisua Joshi. The door is opened for him and asks to come in. Inside, he sees an elderly woman sitting at a table. The room also contains a cage with a monster, various body parts of monsters in a jar, weapons and suitcases. The woman says she hasn't heard the manager's name in a long time. She can't believe he's still alive. A bald kingpin approaches Lee, who is most likely a security guard. The woman, calling the manager a worthless type, is interested in his work. Lee puts on a serious face and says that he did not come for empty talk. And, if she's so interested, why not ask all these questions directly to Taexi? The guard calls Khan a brat and is already raising his hand to strike. The woman stops the man, saying that he still cannot defeat the hero. She says that the asshole Taisu brought a very interesting person to them. She asks Lee what the reason for his visit is, calling him awakened. Lee places a suitcase full of magic crystals on her desk. The mistress immediately identifies them as stones of the lower class. Lee says he wants to sell them. The woman concludes, based on the number of stones, that L has good skills. She asks to see Lee's hunting license. Khan wonders why he should present it. The woman replies that the world is full of different personalities, so you need to know who you are dealing with. Khan cuts her off, asking her not to talk nonsense and to decide whether she buys or not. The woman replies that she knew that everything would come to this and she takes out everything she needs. With the help of scales, she measures the strength of stones. The density is 2217, and Lee hoped it would be more than 2400. Maybe he got defective stones, but the Volax is not such a valuable monster. The woman correctly determines that the hero was hunting Volax. Lee is surprised at how accurate she was. The mistress, considering the reaction on the guy's face, asks him not to be surprised, since Volax stones often come across with a marriage. Therefore, an ordinary hunter would not hang out with such monsters. She asks if Lee is hiding anything from her. He asks if her words mean she won't buy anything. The lady says she will buy it, but only for 8 million won. Lee slams his hand on the table and starts screaming about the real value of the stones. The guard's patience is running out at this point. The mistress stops the fight that has not yet begun. The guard tries to challenge her, but she quickly cuts him off. Lee has a strange sensation, as if everything is frozen. The woman puts on a safe face and asks what they were talking about. Lee does not understand who the old woman really is. She says that of course she knows their real value, but she is for the Hunters Association, and Lee is not. Khan is surprised that the woman once again understands everything. This situation makes her laugh. She says that everything is written on his face. Lee is shocked that she sees right through him. The woman says that since he collected the stones illegally, they can only be sold here. She gives him 8 million won in cash. Although she dropped the amount a lot, he never held that much money in his hand. He clarifies whether these are counterfeit bills. The mistress is again amused by Khan's behavior. She informs him that even though she cut off her contact with Taexi a long time ago, it would be nice to do business with him again. Lee asks her not to make noise, to which she calls him impudent and says that if she were younger, she would kill him. He is rude to her again, telling her that she lacks confidence right now. After these words, he leaves. The guard and his grandmother discuss Khan's rude behavior. She looks at a photo of a girl and a guy in a military suit, saying that it was a good time then. Lee throws the money into the ATM machine and immediately transfers his debt. He accompanies his message with a request not to approach him again. The people to whom Lee owed money believe that something unclean is going on, since he was able to return the entire amount. Even if he worked at a high hourly rate, he would not be able to raise so much money so quickly. The man, who is not the leader of the couple, suggests that Lee simply borrowed money from the bank. The second calls him stupid, because if there was such an opportunity, Lee would not ask for money from them. He orders Park Chulmin, the dumbest of them, to find Lee and find out everything. Park doesn't want to do the job and says there's no need for it. Yong-guk, the smart one, throws a book at Pak, claiming that they can then shake Lee for more money. Park doesn't argue with Hyung anymore. Lee bursts into the hospital room, although they try to stop him. He asks the nurse how this happened. She says that 2 days ago my father was fine, but yesterday he fell asleep for 20 hours. The doctor in charge said that Lee needed to mentally prepare. Nurse Kim tries to support Han and asks him to hope for the best. Khan asks the girl to leave so that he can be alone with his father. She leaves the room. Lee begins to blame himself for what is happening. He calls Kabis and asks about the healing skill. She tells him that it's not sure if it's possible now. Khan interrupts her and decides not to give up. He takes his father's hand and Kabis asks Lee to stop. He uses his magic, putting all his strength into healing. The girl tries to convey to Khan that using a lot of mana is dangerous. Han falls onto the bed and starts coughing. The girl begins to worry about Lee even more. Khan says he's fine. He's sure he can handle it, he needs to hold on a little longer. The panel says that the healing skill has increased. Khan does not understand what is happening and falls to the floor, foam coming out of his mouth. At that moment, a nurse enters the room and sees Lee lying on the floor. She drops her notebook and asks the guy to come to his senses. The hero woke up in a hospital bed. Kabis, who is sitting next to him, says that Khan woke up pretty quickly. Khan asks her what happened to him. She explains that due to overvoltage, he passed out for 2 days. Nurse Kim immediately transferred him to the hospital room. Kabis gets angry, she said it was dangerous. He constantly gets into trouble, but this time everything worked out, so she will turn a blind eye to it. Khan doesn't understand why she thinks everything ended well. Kabis says Nurse Kim will explain further. Lee greets the nurse, but she drops the tray of syringes in surprise. She calls Dr. Kong, and Lee asks the girl to calm down, as people are looking at her strangely. Park Cheol was finally able to climb up to the hero's house, which is located very high on the mountain. It made him very tired. Park does not understand at all what Lee is doing now if he quit his job. Cheol starts banging on the door and calling for the hero. There is milk next to the door. In a fit of rage, Puck kicks her. Pak understands that if he returns to the boss empty-handed, he will receive it. Suddenly, a neighbor appears next to him, frightening with her appearance. Puck is scared that he hit her with a bottle, asks if everything is fine with her. The girl says that Puck will have to clean up the spilled milk. A piece of paper is lying on the ground, on which a wish of good luck to the girl from Khan is written. Cheol feels terrible because he came to Lee and spilled milk for nothing. The neighbor tells Puck that she's having a terrible day because she flunked her exams and was hit by the milk that Lee Appa left behind. Park apologizes to her. The girl begins to freak out and does not understand why everything happened to her. She starts screaming and lashes out at Puck. Lee sits with the doctor in the consultation room. The doctor says that what happened to Hannah's father is a real miracle. Shortly after Yal passed out, Lee Chung woke up on his own. And in just a day, the number of hours he spent sleeping returned to normal. Khan mentally asks Kabiz if this is what she meant when she said that everything is fine. She sticks out her tongue, smiles, showing that this is what she meant. Lee begins to worry about the strange behavior of the doctor. One gets the feeling that he has gone crazy, although this is not surprising, since the symptoms of his father's illness have improved dramatically. Khan asks the doctor when he will be discharged. The doctor doesn't understand why Lee suddenly asks such a question. To which Khan says that he does not want his father to know that his son is in the hospital. Lee walks down the hallway, remembering the doctor's words. The doctor said that although they still do not know why Lee suddenly lost consciousness, his condition is normal. He will be monitored for 2 days and then released. Khan understands the meaning of the doctor's words, but isn't sure if it's worth it. He had long wanted to rest, but obviously not in a hospital room. He even thinks about running away, since he does not need hospital expenses. Nurse Kim enters the room to check the patient's blood pressure. She heard that Khan was thinking of escaping. Lee says she just heard everything. Elle asks her about her father's condition. The girl says that her father ate and went to bed, which pleases Lee. In addition, the girl suggests that Lee does not want to see her father in the hospital. Lee's blood pressure is normal. The girl invites Khan to go to his father's room now, while he is sleeping. Hannah is very pleased with this proposal and he runs out of the ward screaming, for which he receives a reprimand. The father sleeps in the ward, and Lee thinks about trying the healing skill again, but not overdoing it this time. He starts using magic, but something starts to happen to his mana. All mana is transferred to the father. Kabiz yells at Lee to let go of his father's hand immediately, but he cannot tear his hand away. The girl opens the panel to quickly correct the situation. She wants to correct the transfer of user skills, but the panel gives an error. Kabiz does not understand what is happening and it scares her very much. Kabiz decides to block the magic, which helps the situation. Lee comes to his senses, not understanding what happened. Kabiz cannot give an exact answer to this question, but she is sure that what happened is related to the healing skill. The girl has an idea. She tells Lee to use mana to inspect her condition. At this moment, Lee understands everything, why the father did not come to his senses for so long, why it was not possible to find out the cause of the disease, why no one could find a way to cure him. The thing is, it was never a disease. We see that there is something strange in the father's body. Park bought Han's neighbor a whole carton of milk. Because of her, he lost all the fun, but he can hit the girl. He decides to tell her that he is a friend of Han and cannot get through to him. Maybe the girl can give Puck some useful information. The neighbor says that she last saw Khan 5 days ago. She ran into him when she was returning from school. He told her that he had been in the mountains all day and he was carrying a heavy bag. Park establishes that she saw him the day after the interest conversation. He tries to find out something else from the girl, but she has nothing more to say. Park wonders how Lee was able to get the money back so quickly. The neighbor remembered something else. She met him the day before yesterday near the library, but Khan got into a taxi and was in a hurry somewhere. She heard Khan tell the taxi driver to go to the hospital. Park realizes that Lee went to the hospital to see his father. He thanks the girl for her help and she goes home. Cheol decides to come to the hospital tomorrow. Khan fills out discharge paperwork in the nurse's office. Nurse Kim is happy that Han was discharged so quickly. She nearly fainted herself when she saw Lee lying unconscious in her father's room. Lee apologizes for what happened, rubbing the back of his head with his hand. The nurse is also pleased that Lee's father's condition has improved significantly. He thought so, too, until he saw the real cause of his father's condition. We are shown what happened in the ward when Kabiz and Lee realized what was happening to their father. On the father's body is the eye of a monster. The eye is located on an incomprehensible substance, from which spikes still stick out. Kabiz herself does not understand what it is, but she is sure that this substance is the cause of her father's problems. Khan is very angry with what is happening, so he decides to attack the eye. Kabiz stops him as they can't do anything. She assures that they will be able to find a way to solve the problem, but they need to wait a bit. Her words have an effect on Lee. He stops his actions. Lee mentally asks his father to hold on a little longer until he becomes stronger. We are being returned now. The nurse noticed that Lee was thinking about something. Khan says that he has an important business. The nurse asks about what specific case he is talking about. Lee replies that he has decided to take some kind of exam tonight. He signs the documents, says goodbye and leaves. Immediately after Khan leaves, Park approaches the nurse with questions about Khan. She says he just left. Nurse Kim thinks she's seen Pak somewhere before. She remembers and asks a direct question to Pak. The nurse calls security, but Pak tries to stop her. Lee has 3 hours of free time before the hunt. While he was in the hospital, he searched the internet for information, so in general he prepared. He is charged with hunting and decides to become an official hunter. A team of miners discovered a huge hole under Seoul. They blocked everything so that no outsider could enter the territory. Men do not understand how such a big hole was formed. One of them even thinks it's the end of the world. A man in a suit approaches them, inquiring about the location of the hole. The miners ask the man how he knows about the hole. He introduces himself as an investigator from the Hunting Association, and his name is Kong Sung-hoon. Kong Sung-hoon is a rather calm young man with black glasses. The miners tell all the information to the investigator. The size of the hole was quite impressive. The miners understand that since they sent an investigator from the association, the matter is serious. Another worker does not understand why his partner took everything so seriously. The partner is shocked that the other has such questions. The boss himself trembled at the sight of the interrogator. The investigator is a kind of awakened cop who is much more powerful than the regular police. Kim receives a permit to work in the mine. From this point on, the place is occupied, and employees must evacuate. The mine worker tries to protest as there is construction going on, but he is quickly put down. The investigator heard some sounds. He looks deep into the hole, and then talks about immediate evacuation. But they did not have time to evacuate. Lee goes to his destination using the maps in his phone. He still had about an hour to go, so perhaps he should have taken the bus. Although, walking is also a good thing. Lee suddenly felt a vibration, an earthquake began. People start to panic and the earth collapses. A huge crater forms in the middle of the street where cars fall. Many people were injured and asked to call an ambulance. Khan tries to recover, not to panic. He goes to the person who asks for help. Some guy starts recording what is happening on camera. Lee helped pull the man out of the rubble. Khan has a strange feeling again and asks the guy filming the video to move away from the crater. A huge monster appears from the hole, which in a second devours the poor guy with the camera. The monster looks like an enormous insect.